This episode of News, Games, and More is brought to you by
and
Watch Dogs
welcome
Legion.
to News, Games, and More, our daily news show. I'm your host, Casey DeFreitas, and this week I am joined by Dan Stapleton,
That's me.
John Ryan,
Hi, everybody.
and Akeem Lawson.
What's going on?
And I know I said this week, but this is a daily show, so today I'm joined by these people who are not on a weekly show. We're on a daily show. And this week we're talking about PlayStation, Paper Mario, and a bunch of other things, but I wanted to say, hey, congrats to the Ghost of Tsushima team for an awesome launch and for everyone looking forward to playing that game this week. Let's start talking about Ghost of Tsushima, specifically the fact that the devs have lengthened some loading times because you couldn't read the tips in times. And I think this is an interesting choice because people often complain about how long loading screens in games are. So for them to actively choose to lengthen them, it's an interesting choice. But specifically, Dan, I know we were talking about this earlier. You appreciate the longer loading time so you can read these tips because sometimes these tips are imperative to playing the game.
I wouldn't say I appreciate them. I'm just familiar with the problem of having load times go so quickly that you can't read the tooltips. Because I've been playing on PC for a long time. I've had an SSD for many years, and those cut down loading times to the point where like you don't get to absorb that information. And it is an interesting approach to artificially lengthen the load times, like the loading screens, because why wouldn't you just put that information somewhere else? That's the confusing part to me. It's like, why not just like have an option you can turn on? It's like, hey, I want tips to show up on the screen sometimes, so that I can absorb these things, or maybe just have a better tutorial. I don't know. Yeah. It's very, very a very odd choice to me, to especially in light of the fact that like this is like the last PlayStation exclusive that's coming out before the PS5, when they're advertising the death of load times. Like they're going to have to come up with a new solution for that, and it can't just be let's make you sit and watch a load screen longer than you have to.
And I wanted to specifically call out Final Fantasy VII Remake because all of the tutorials and tips and any information you could possibly need about anything was actually in the options section. And I'm wondering if more games are going to do that in lieu of the shorter load times, which is such a big goal for the consoles coming out this gen. John Ryan, what do you think?
I think they might. I really hope that. I think that in this Ghost of Tsushima story specifically, I think the interesting thing to me is that like they lengthen these load times for the tips that aren't necessarily like. Look, I'm really loving my time with Ghost of Tsushima so far, but like these tips aren't all necessarily super helpful. Like sometimes it's like you can get a perfect parry by doing this, which is great, but other times it's like so and so is Jin Sakai's grandma. And it's like okay, so I hope that if we obviously, if we see compendium stuff, I always appreciate a compendium in the game menus, like as a wikier, as an X-Guides writer, like that is, very good. And, big fan of lore, but like, I don't necessarily know if we'll see a trade-off between like loading screen tips versus compendiums. I think that they're just two very different things.
Yeah.
And why not just put it on the pause screen? Just like anytime I pause, I've got to go get a drink. I've got to go to the bathroom. I pause. Hey, there's tips right there.
Well, I think the last of us
struggling. Just like put the tips there.
Akeem, what is your favorite? Akeem, what is your favorite way to get tips, and how do you feel about the tips on the loading screen?
Well, I agree. Like, just make it in the loading screen. Like, honestly, or not loading screen, but like pause menu. Because like the thing is, if you constantly are dying, you get frustrated. I don't want to see. Why would you lengthen it? I don't want to. Like, I'll tell you guys right now, the amount of times I died playing The Last of Us 2, like I was ready to throw my controller. I'm like, I don't want. Okay, I know what I need to do. I'm just not doing it for some strange reason. So that, like, just having like those tips like somewhere else where you can actually just reference at your leisure. Because I haven't played it yet. For those of you that have played it, is it anywhere like available? Like when you pause the game?
I've got it here, and like I was playing before we started.
Braggart.
Sorry. And it's the kind of thing that like I feel like again this kind of goes back to the tips, the quality of said tips. Like I feel like I haven't needed to look anything up, and that's a good testament to Ghost of Tsushima's design. But it's also not necessarily like a helpful thing when you're looking for help in game,
Mhm.
but I don't believe that there's a spot to find it all in there.
Ugh.
I don't think under the techniques menu there's a little section that says like, hey, if you're dying a lot, try X, Y, and Z. Though they really do like reminding you of that when you're going to die. Though I will say one thing that I think Ghost does really well is like reiterate points to you in game. So like if you've been playing a little bit, you'll know that as you kill certain types of enemies, you can figure out how to battle certain like enemy types better. So when you do that, you get to learn new stances. And half the time, if you're like fighting and forgetting the stance that you're supposed to be in, it'll like swing into slow motion and be like actual tutorial again. So it's like it's a little bit. The second or third time it happened, I'm like, okay, look, I know I'm just stupid. I get it. You don't need to rub it in, but it's a smart way to handle that problem, I think.
Yeah, you
And
know what I'm really not going to miss is the
what?
load screen tip that says like, "Hey, are you dying a lot? Maybe you should turn down the difficulty, you
Oh,
wuss."
screw you.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to point out this comment from our chat on YouTube from Seb Thomas. They ask, is there a skip button? And there's not a skip button on the load screens, but that would be a really great solution to that. Like once it's done loading, if you're still reading the tips, you don't have to click the button. But
Yep.
maybe, you know what I would probably end up doing? Have the load screen on. If I think it's going to be long, I'll look at my phone and then I just don't notice that the load screen is done. I don't know. I did that with Assassin's Creed Odyssey often because the load screens were really that long.
Yeah,
But
There are some that are
isn't a bad idea just because like when I die and I respawn, I don't necessarily want it to start before I'm ready. Like
Right.
maybe I did like look away because I just died. Maybe I'm grateful for that opportunity to look away from the screen for a moment. So having the like, hey, are you ready to go button, and then have those tips up there until I push that button is great.
And before we move on to the next topic, I wanted to point out this comment from IGN user Holtic. They say the game runs incredibly smooth, loads extremely fast, and doesn't seem to be put much of a strain on the system. My Pro has been extremely quiet during playtimes last night and never once kicked into jet engine mode. Sucker Punch has developed one hell of an engine here. Can't wait to see what these guys do with the PS5, and it's going to be interesting to see how Sony's developers design around the idea of not having load screens anymore for tips like these to appear. And yeah, my PlayStation hasn't gone into the jet engine mode when playing Ghost of Tsushima, and it does that for things like it has for you.
Oh my god, it's doing it right
Oh
now.
no,
It's just sitting over there on the pause screen.
it does that with.
I
I was
Mine
really
does
worried
that-
it would ruin my audio.
I'm sorry.
There are going to be like a lot of like interesting differences in like how open world game design and game design in general change when we don't have to stall for time when you're loading. Because there are so many times like Tomb Raider and Uncharted are some of the big examples of that, where you have to like wedge your way through a skinny crack in a couple of walls because they're hiding a load screen there. I guess
Mhm.
Mass Effect is the classic example. It's like you're on an elevator for as long as it takes that level to load.
Mhm.
So we're just not going to see those things anymore once we move fully, both feet into this next generation. You're just not going to see people designing for having to load around physical hard drive load times.
But what
And,
if it's a
it'll
really
be subtle
small cave?
Yeah, it'll be subtle differences, but they'll definitely be there.
And Mitchell Saltzman in the chat, our reviewer of Ghost of Tsushima, said the tips should just go to IGN wikis, and I completely agree with you. You can
100%.
just any tips you need, you can just look up Ghost of Tsushima's wikis on IGN.com, and you'll get everything that you need to know. And if for you, those of you who don't know, if you haven't checked out a review, I think Mitchell gave Ghost of Tsushima a 9 out of 10, correct, Dan?
It did.
Which is 9 for amazing. And I think a lot of us pretty much agree with it. I know that Beyond this week put out a whole review discussion, so check that out if you're interested in Ghost of Tsushima. But let's talk about another big PlayStation exclusive, The Last of Us Part 2, and how it had the biggest first month of any 2020 game in the US, which I was extremely surprised about. This means it surpassed other games like Final Fantasy VII Remake, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and Doom Eternal in first month sales. And on top of that, The Last of Us 2 is the third best-selling game of the year. So for the last 12 months, ending in June 2020, it's already the third best-selling. This is insane. Akeem, what do you think? Is this surprising to you?
Not not really. It's not really that surprising to me. I mean, like I feel like this has been like a heavily anticipated by a lot of people. And like I've been looking forward to this. I actually before uh like I never played the original one. So like but I know how big this game was going to be. So I played the original leading up to the release of this. So I didn't have to wait as long as some other people who might have been anticipating a lot longer than me. I played it, and then a week later, I just beat this. I want to play the sequel. Oh, it's coming out next week. Sweet, hot dog.
I'm
So
sure.
yeah, but honestly, I'm not that surprised because again, like I said, like it's just been heavily anticipated by so many folks that were fans of the original. Outside of any leaks and all that other drama that's circulating on the internet. Again, like I mean, even all the negative stuff helps generate, like sales sometimes, So even like the controversy, the good and the bad generates sales. So no, I'm not surprised.
This is like a totally different topic, but it's kind of crazy how so much bad press doesn't really seem to affect sales on highly anticipated games. Because Pokemon Sword and Shield had the same thing, where there was a bunch of controversy surrounding that game before it came out, and the sales were exactly what they would have predicted before it came out. But John Ryan, oh yes, Dan.
I think that just illustrates that like the super passionate community that really, raises hell when they're not happy, is not the bulk of who buys these games. Like you have those people, and like they're it's great that they're there. It's great that the people are there to just be really enthusiastic and when they're happy and really wave the flag for these games. But they're not even the majority. They are a small minority of people who buy these huge mass market games, and the people that by and large are buying these games have never even heard any of this controversy because they don't spend their time on Twitter, on forums, on even on IGN. Like they're just buying these games and enjoying them, totally oblivious to any controversy that's swirling around them.
Yeah, it's surprising how we are so ingrained in internet culture and game culture. And I actually recently met someone who's around my age, and he didn't know what TIL means in internet speech. And I guess it's just because I just go on the internet and Reddit so often that I know those things.
So when did you learn it, Casey?
He learned it. Wait, how did he learn it? My friend used TIL in a text, and he asked, "What does that mean?"
And I think what date? When did he learn it?
This week.
Today.
Oh yeah, today. I'm sorry.
Boo.
No, it's perfect.
No,
John
I'm going
Ryan.
Dan.
Yeah.
No.
So,
You're over
John
there
Ryan,
now, but boo.
John Ryan, what do you think about The Last of Us Part 2 having the biggest first month of any 2020 game in the US?
I mean, I think it's, yes, there was a fair amount of, internet discourse about it, but I feel like we always kind of knew that it was going to be this big. Like there are 2 games coming out this year, really, and there's a bunch of great games coming out that I'm super excited for, that a lot of people are really hyped for. But like there are 2 huge games coming out this year that I think we are expecting to sell gangbusters, like huge numbers, no matter what like the discourse is around it in the couple weeks, months leading up to release. Like, and especially with The Last of Us 2, like, I mean, that's a game that like not only like people outside of the gaming space know what that is. Like that is a game that has been held up by so many people in our community as like, no, this is like a gold standard of what it can be. So it's like even if you are like in the crowd of folks who are kind of upset about things leading into a release of a product like this, like odds are you're probably still going to buy it even if you're a little mad about it, because you want to be able to be a knowledgeable part of that discussion. But yeah, I mean, obviously, mostly just congrats to the Naughty Dog team on a crazy amount of sales.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I wasn't really surprised by the numbers, just because we get to see the metrics on the content that we run at IGN, and when people are really excited about something, that shows up. Like that's hard to miss when something is really blowing up and people are excited about it. And this generation, like the Sony exclusives, have done crazy numbers for us, and that translates not 1-to-1, but it gives us a good idea of what people are going to run out and buy in droves. And The Last of Us has consistently just been a huge game for us. So when we see people buying that game and biggest numbers of the year, it's like, yeah, that lines up, that tracks.
Yeah, and I don't know with you all, but for me, the spoilers were pretty much unavoidable. People were sending them to my inboxes, and
Oh
so
no.
yeah, no, it was spoiled for me.
Ooh.
But this is the thing. I was like, you know what? I'm still gonna buy this game because I want to check it out. I'm a fan of this game. I'm not gonna let this deter me from this experience.
Mhm.
Like it's like I want to still experience this. So, and I'm pretty sure there were lots of people out there just like out of curiosity, like, does this really take place in this game? Was this leak? Is this leak legit?
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure there were a lot of people that just wanted to find out for themselves, outside of like the leaked footage and all everything that was leaked on the internet. And I'm still currently enjoying it. I haven't beaten it yet, but I'm still enjoying it. So,
I'm in the
but
same
yeah,
boat with you.
You're in for some feelings, my friend.
Yeah.
No
Usually
boat, pun intended.
Usually what happens to me with leaks is that I don't know how it's like a superpower, but I just don't remember them while I'm playing the game, and then I'm surprised anyway. I don't know. It's a good short-term memory problem.
Yeah, I lucked out. I mercifully had nothing spoiled for me in the months leading up to it, and so like when those couple of big moments happened throughout, it was just like no. It was very good. It was very enjoyable. But
I definitely got spoiled, but I kind of brought it on myself, just spending too much time in the comment section.
But
one of the things
that, like, the strength of Naughty Dog as a storytelling team, like, I'm not saying that the game is perfect by any means, but like one of the things that they really excel at is making those beats, even if they're coming, they still make them have so much weight and they land so effectively. Like, again, like even if I had been spoiled, I still would have probably enjoyed it just as much. But it was just a nice surprise. Well, not a nice surprise, but it was a surprise that I didn't see it coming.
And I also wanted to mention that The Last of Us 2 was actually the fastest selling PS4 exclusive ever, beating even Spider-Man on the PS4. I mean, it beat those numbers in only 3 days, which is incredible. But I also wanted to mention really quick that maybe the most interesting June sales numbers was that Ring Fit Adventure for the Nintendo Switch made it to number 7 after the previous month. It was number 835 because of stock shortages. So as soon as those came back into the stock, everyone bought them as quickly as possible, because how else are you going to get exercise in quarantine if not for Ring Fit Adventure?
I guess. Wow, that's good for congratulations to Nintendo too. That's great.
It does kind of make sense. It does kind of make sense that it would be the fastest selling PlayStation exclusive, just because like there are more PlayStation 4s out there now.
Yes.
Like there were fewer when Spider-Man came out. There were many fewer when even The Last of Us Remastered came out. So and when God of War came out. So it's like they're just piling that on and on and on. So you just have more people who are available to run out and buy it on day one. And it'll be interesting to see after a few months or a year or whatever, when like if those numbers if it maintains that advantage.
And that is a great point, Dan. And to keep it on the PlayStation news angle, the PS5 pre-orders won't be a surprise. And what that means is that Sony will let us know well beforehand before they will go on sale. So we don't have to, they're on sale, and then like everyone has to stop doing what they're doing. And then if you're in a podcast, you just are out of luck and don't get. So we will know when to go and start lining up at your local game store or Best Buy or your preferred Amazon website, wherever you want to go. And this started because earlier this week, rumors began to swirl that the PlayStation 5 would go up for pre-order, much to the surprise of everyone. And that's when Sony responded, "No, we'll let you know. We'll give you a heads up." Do you guys appreciate this? John Ryan, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's like, honestly, I think it's a little bit silly that it's like even kind of a discussion. Like looking at the way that Sony has behaved so far in the marketing cycle for the PlayStation 5, like seeing how methodical they've been about every single, like all of their little drip fed information, little controller shit, the hard drive. Like it's cool that they want to take their time and they want to sell to detail like the importance of the hardware bits. But like, I feel like given all of that context, like there was no way they ever weren't going to be like, oh, and by the way, surprise, if you didn't pre-order it today, you're totally screwed. Like, yeah, I feel like this is a pretty obvious thing. And like, I mean, I guess good for Sony for wanting to clarify
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah,
I think
before the rumors got out of control, I'm glad they kind of stepped in and did that. I just find the whole quote that the worldwide head of marketing said. I find it funny. It's I think it's safe to say we'll let you know when pre-order will happen. It's not going to happen with a minute's notice. We're going to at some point let you know when you can pre-order PlayStation 5. So please don't feel like you have to go run out and line up anywhere until you receive official notice on how that will work. All right, dude, chill. I don't think anyone was like spazzing out about it. So I just
No.
find that funny that
Some people were.
It's like, calm down. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Like, it's video games, guys. Chill.
It did come off as a little bit patronizing. You're right.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. I was like, dude, chill, bro. All right.
It's fine. It's all good.
I think that they're
like,
just
the
so
only
concerned
reason-
about getting. No, I just think that they're so concerned about like making sure that they absolutely have the locked down control of information.
Mm-hmm.
Like because it is such a curious. It's such a curious object, this PlayStation 5. It's just like it's just super strange, like how like it's not. The word that I initially kind of popped into the head was like cultish, but it's not, because it's business. That's what business is. They want to make sure that they're controlling as much of the conversation, as much of the information around their product that they've worked super hard on for the last however many years as possible. But yeah,
they want to maximize the excitement around this launch, because that's everything for them. Like if you have a misstep out of the gate, I mean, just look what happened to Microsoft last time when they just tripped over themselves. But the only reason this would really matter, like when pre-orders go live, is if they were supply constrained to the point where they were worried that they would not have enough to go around, and like people would not be able to buy a console when they wanted to buy it. So that's the worst case scenario for somebody who's selling a product, is like, take my money. It's like, I don't have the thing to give to you. So that it makes a lot of sense for them to say like, hey, we're going to have just like an orderly process for this. We've got, and like they went out with a press release not too long ago saying they're going to have like 10 million of them this year.
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
a lot. Yeah, they just doubled it because they see demand for video games going up, because they originally were doing 5 million, now they're doing 10, and 5 million was even less than the amount of PS4 they launched at in the beginning as well.
Which is understandable given the economic situation on the planet right now. But there are assuming this thing costs $500, like there are not that many people who have $500 to throw around right now. A lot of people are out of work. A lot of people are going to have to wait until things turn around for them, at least, to invest in a new gaming console, especially when the PS4 is still a perfectly good machine. So
it's interesting because a lot of people are out of work, but there are also less things to spend money on. Like, you're not going out, you're not traveling, you're not doing big purchases. So like, why not spend it on a new gaming console? And maybe that's where their heads are with that.
If you have a job.
If you have a job.
I mean, I think they're kind of really banking on that split, though, right? Like, there is that really horrible economic reality that so many people are not being taken care of right now, and are not being able to make their housing payments, and not being able to make medical payments. But at the same time, like, there are plenty of folks who are able to work remotely. Knock wood that we're very fortunate in that regard. And so Sony is kind of banking on the other half of us who are, I feel.
It's a very different climate than they were expecting to launch in. So
yes,
it's going to be very interesting to see how that launch goes. Like, are they going to sell out of pre-orders on day one? We don't know. Maybe there are going to be a bunch of scalpers trying to buy them all up and resell them.
Are you serious? Do you think that's gonna happen with however much this system's gonna cost?
Oh
That
yeah,
happened
with the
to the Switch,
$600. I mean, it's an investment, right?
Yeah, it was absolutely a thing with pretty much every console launch going back.
Well,
as far as I can remember, like the first.
Well, I just feel like, first of all, you already have to have a lot of you have to have money if you're going to do that. Then if you're going to buy the PS5 in bulk, so like, you're already rolling in the dough if you're going to buy it in bulk and then resell it.
Yeah, they want to roll in more.
I did I wanted to point out this comment from the live chat. Bubble Buster says unemployment are making $50,000 a year. They can afford a new PS5 console. That's if they can get a hold of their unemployment office to get that money. So we'll see if that happens to millions Americans on the country.
Call your
Also
representative
depends on where they live.
Yeah, it does.
And
But
if if they're supporting a whole family, it's like 50,000 is not that much. If you're
Yeah,
supporting
it's
a family.
not. Mhm. And now I do want to move on to another topic, this time about Nintendo, but Paper Mario devs are no longer allowed to make new characters that touch on the Mario universe. And I wanted to clarify that the developers of Paper Mario, so they said that they can't touch on the Mario universe, but specifically that kind of means that they can no longer modify Mario characters or to create original characters that touch on the Mario universe. I know I've said that before. But for example, previous Paper Marios kind of had, like, for example, they had a flying Koopa named Parakarry, or they had Mini Yoshi from the first Paper Mario. So they would take existing kind of characters like Hammer Bros or any of those other enemies and then make them into personalized characters, and they are no longer able to do that. So it also means that the team behind Paper Mario Origami King had to come up with new characters from outside of that existing Mario universe for the game. And what do you think? Do you think that enhances creativity? Okay, because now they have to make totally original characters that do not pull on old Mario enemies, or do you think it's kind of lowers creativity? Akeem, what do you think?
Well, I just don't know why you would limit your universe, not universe, but your universe. Why would you limit your universe? I don't get that. That just boggles my mind. It's like when you think about a universe, you think about like just this huge place that's just it's ever growing. Like the people that come in and out of this universe are ever growing. Like you look at something like the Marvel universe or like DC universe. Like right now, the Joker has a new girlfriend. For crying out loud, you know what I mean? Like
What?
Harley has moved on. Yeah, her name is Punchline, I believe. Her name is Punchline. She blows Harley out of the water. Sorry to all the Harley fans out there.
Oh no.
But you see what
She's
I'm saying?
not the reskin, right?
No.
Good.
No, but you see what I'm saying though. Like it's and this was a character that was just created, you know, just off the dome, just someone that so not necessarily based on a character, but obviously she's taken the place of Harley in the Joker's life. So I don't know. I just find it's very interesting. I don't get why they would want to limit their own universe. I don't get it. I don't like that idea.
I'm thinking, yes, Dan.
It is interesting because it's just in the clips we've been watching, we've seen like Shy Guys and like a few like Toads. Like clearly, it's not like an absolute thing that they're not allowed to use any Mario stuff. Princess Peach is the one that's been captured. It's like she's obviously in there. So,
I think it's that they're not allowed to alter them in any way, so that Nintendo is then beholden to these new characters that created that technically should exist inside of their universe.
Yeah, I mean,
Does that make sense?
It seems more like they're just trying to distinguish between these spin-offs. They're trying to say like this is Paper Mario, and it's very different because it's about these characters, and this is you know, whereas you know all the familiar characters are going to be the mainline stuff, but it doesn't seem absolute, but you know I do like that it kind of encourages that distinctiveness, that it's not just all like, hey, here's a Mario game and it's like all the exact same characters in a different genre. You know, it's like, hey, he's going to go off and do this like distinctively different thing.
John Ryan, do you have any thoughts on these restrictions that Nintendo, and just to specify, Intelligent Systems are the developers that developed Paper Mario, not Nintendo itself?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the cynic in me wants to say that they're just looking for new amiibos, but like, I think I think that, you know, Dan kind of hit the nail right on the head, where it's like from a design standpoint, it would really make sense for all of these different like sort of sub franchises of the Mario family to sort of have their own unique, not just style, not just like visual designs, but also their own, you know, their own unique rogues gallery, and their own unique character types. And like, so like you'll still see, you know, sort of like the big classics of Mario, you know, Toads and Koopas and Shy Guys and Boos and stuff. But then you'll know like, oh, I'm playing a Paper Mario game, so it's going to be X, Y, and Z. And then if I'm switching over to, if they ever do, you know, Galaxy or whatever, it's going to be something else. And then if they do an Odyssey 2, it'll be something totally different there. Yeah.
So So based on that, does that mean like let's say there was a character that was created originally for Paper Mario, that character wouldn't exist in like I don't know, like Smash or something, or not in Paper Mario form, or like in another Super Mario Brothers game.
I think
In the Mario
that is the
Cinematic
point.
Universe.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I know. I like, for example, in Super Paper Mario, they basically went to a different dimension. Please, like, correct me if I'm wrong. They did a lot of weird stuff, but all of those original characters in Super Paper Mario were extremely distinct and different from the regular Mario characters, and I think that's kind of what they want to do. But also, Jonathan Dornbush pointed out that this could just be a mistranslation. So I guess we'll have to
There
wait
it
and see
is.
with that.
Problem solved.
Like,
Yeah,
wait a minute,
problem solved.
you guys don't understand. That's not what we meant.
It could be
That's
that. It
gonna
could
be
exactly
tomorrow's
be that.
episode.
It's very important because Mario is this very cohesive universe that really makes sense, and everyone's really thought through all these things.
There is a show Bible.
There
You got-
needs to be
gotta be
things that are
very careful
specifically
with the
have.
continuity.
It's got to be canon. There got to be canon and non-canon. Paper Mario is not canon. I think that's just what they're saying.
Well, if we look what the
The
CW is
mushroom
doing with
part
the
that people
DCEU, they're like it's the Mario multiverse. It's fine.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. The Mario multiverse. I like that idea.
And we are running out of time, but we do have one more story to touch upon before we leave for the day, for the weekend. And Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans will star in The Gray Man, a new thriller movie directed by Joe and Anthony Russo that will carry Netflix's biggest budget yet. So apparently the movie is based on the Gray Man and Court Gentry book series from author Mark Greaney. The globe-trotting movie focuses on two killers, Gentry, who's played by Gosling, and his former companion Lloyd, played by Evans, as they hunt each other down. This is interesting because this is going to be the biggest budget yet, around 200 million. Gosh, not 2 million, 200 million. But for comparison, a movie like The Irishman reportedly cost around 175 million, which was the sixth most watched Netflix original film. And Extraction was made for under 100 million, which is the most watched. So I think there's not a huge correlation between most expensive and most watched. But I don't know. Are you guys excited for this movie? Akeem, what do you think?
I mean, I've never heard of The Gray Man, so I can't say I'm excited for it. But I mean, the guy who wrote the book apparently it was so successful that he quit his job to become a full-time author, and it's
nice.
Yeah, it spawned many more books. So there's The Gray Man, On Target, Ballistic, Deadeye, Black Blast. I can keep going on because he kept writing. And I believe that's what they're hoping to do with this this Netflix movie. They're hoping that it's gonna continue onward. So they're probably gonna be increasing their budget. But I can't say so. Yeah, I can't say I'm looking forward to it because I don't know much about it. But again, it obviously has some fan base. I'm curious to read the book now and kind of check it out and become a fan potentially.
Wait, this is the same guy who wrote Ballistic X versus Sever?
I don't think so. Wait a minute, hold on. No.
Could
Hold
it be?
Could
What
be.
is? I don't know what that is.
About assassins trying to kill each other. Also, there was the Assassins movie with Antonio Banderas. Sounds like the same premise.
There was one with Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson recently that was not terrible. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting bit of news coming out of Netflix. I mean, like I was joking around earlier before we started. Like, I still don't necessarily understand where all this money comes from. But it's cool to see them taking and trying to make such big plans that, like, Akeem, you were saying like that there's a bunch of books and stuff. And like in the article, like Joe Russo says, like they're trying to create a franchise built out around like a whole universe. So it's like they're making the Gosling cinematic universe. And it'll be really interesting if this first one is successful and if it's good, then to see the rest of those pay off and sort of where they can take that franchise from there.
I think it's great that all these streaming services are throwing around this kind of money and just like perpetuating the idea that like you don't have to go to a movie theater to see like these crazy big movies. Like it certainly motivates people to buy bigger televisions. Worked for me.
Yeah.
And to see these well-known actors, because typically, like I remember when the first big movie that I saw on Netflix was the one with Will Smith. I was like, you guys got Will Smith to be in a Netflix movie? I can't believe that.
Right?
Yeah,
Bright.
Bright.
Right.
I know everybody hated it. I actually really liked Bright.
I liked it
I did
too.
too.
thought it was
Thank you.
fun.
All right. There's 3 people in this world that liked it then. Okay.
75% of all viewers loved Bright.
I mean, I just love Will Smith. And so just the fact that I wouldn't say he didn't lower himself to be in a Netflix movie, but the fact that they were able to get him to be in this production kind of like raised the stakes. And so that's why you see like big budget movies like The Irishman and this one coming up and so many others that Netflix have had.
Yeah, it's all about who's willing to throw around the money to get to pay those stars what the market determines they're worth.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
Netflix is willing to do it. Amazon's willing to do it. HBO Max is going to be willing to do it. Like they're all, and I guess now Peacock may be willing to spend some big
And I mean,
money on these people.
I imagine that a large chunk of that 200 million is going to specifically those 2 retainers
100%.
as well.
And the
Like,
Russo brothers, right? Like they're not
yeah.
small names either.
Yeah. But
So-
I mean, because like Extraction was that way too. Like Extraction was good, but like
Mhm.
for 100 million, like I think 40 or 50 of that alone was to Chris Hemsworth. Like,
Yeah. Like how many things are they going to
I don't think it was actually that much, but I think it was a ridiculous amount of money.
And I'll
And-
tell you all right now, 100%, we're all going to see it because Netflix is going to make sure it shows up in their trending and,
Mhm.
recommended. We're all
Oh, yeah.
going
We're all
to
gonna look at it.
be in our face. Yeah.
I don't
one
understand how Netflix chooses what to put there because I saw 365 Days there recently, and that was not a good movie. I'm like, don't even look at it. Don't Google it. I shouldn't have said its name. Dan, what were you gonna say?
One thing that
Now I'm
distinguishes
curious.
Netflix and all these streaming services from the box office is like you read about like Robert Downey Jr. made like $85 million off of Endgame because he got a piece of the ticket sales, and that's just not a thing that exists with Netflix. Like there is no really residual for it unless they are paying out based on like how many views this gets like in perpetuity. And maybe they are, I don't know, but it's not something that like actors can necessarily trade on and say like I want points on how much this thing made at the box office.
Nobody's going to make the Will Smith in Bright action figure.
No.
Well, no, they could very well do that. Like there's no reason there wouldn't be merchandising. Like merchandising is something that they could definitely take a taste of if that's going to be a thing. But there's going to be no DVD sales. There's going to be no ticket sales, and it's I mean that's I guess part of the like, hey, if this movie is successful, then I do well. So maybe Netflix has an equivalent. Like if this movie gets X number of views, then I get paid more. But it's not really this. It's a whole new negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
Our producer did point out that Stranger Things did get action figures and did
I
get
was
a
gonna say
video
that.
game.
Yep.
And did get
And even a
few-
whole like D&D set. Like there's a
Yeah.
bunch of marketing, but like I feel
Yeah.
like with the larger sort of more mature franchises, like it seems that's I'm unfamiliar with the books, but like that's kind of seems where this is leaning. Like that doesn't necessarily scream like Extraction to me doesn't scream have an action figure, have a
No.
lunchbox,
It doesn't.
I would totally get a
Put it out
new
to buy a Chris Hemsworth like life size.
a big cardboard cutout to put in right there.
or a bust, like a life-size statue bust of Chris Hemsworth in expansion.
Look, we
But,
can just say body pillow, it's fine.
That would be the preferred product for many out there, I assume. And with that, I think we will close the show because we are just about out of time. This was News, Games, and More on IGN, our daily news show. Dan Stapleton, John Ryan, and Akeem Lawson, thank you so much for joining me. And we will be back on Monday at the same time and the same place. Thanks for watching.
we're off next
Actually,
week.
We're not?
Oh no.
No, we are not. We are not broadcasting
man.
on Monday. Next
Oh,
week,
no.
we're taking the week off because it's Comic-Con at home.
Are we taking the week off for the whole week? No News, Games, and More?
I believe so. Yeah.
Nope.
We're
All
done.
But I
Comic-Con all the
assume-
time.
But I assume with Comic-Con, we will have plenty of other programming and live shows to watch.
And we'll be
So-
back the following week.
We will be back the following week. So thank you guys so much for
Okay.
watching.
There will be news, games, and more, just not in this particular form.
Exactly. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful weekend, guys.
Take care.